Okay, I'm going to try this, hopefully get it right the first time. Subject-verb agreement. Subjects and verbs come together as teams, they make clauses. Okay, so if they're working together as a team, common sense would say that they need to agree with one another. Okay, what do they agree on? They agree on whether they agree on a matter of plural or singular. So when the subject is singular, meaning, one idea, person, place, or thing, then the verb should be singular, in its construction. Okay? When a subject is plural, meaning more than one idea, person, place, or thing, then the verb needs to be plural as well. All right, I'll just whittling that out a little bit. Okay, well, that didn't work. Okay, so that's what you need to know. So in this sentence that we're looking at right here, the boy is at the store. Boy is singular. See if I can get this thing to work. And so therefore my my verb needs to be singular too. Now when you have two verbs placed like this, is and are, that first one is always going to be singular, that second one is always going to be plural. Okay, so when I look at the second sentence, the boys are at the store, I see boys now are plural, which means I need to grab the plural verb, and the plural verb is always the one that's second in the construction. All right, and intuitively you understand this. So we turn the page. These rules that I'm going to talk about today apply mainly when you're talking about a third person voice, okay, he, she, it, they, and present tense verbs. If you try to apply these ideas to first or second person or past tense verbs, it may or may not hold up, which in most cases it won't. So for instance, eats and eat, those are present tense verbs. He eats, they eat. Present participle form of the verb, he is eating, they are eating. But look what happens when we come to the past simple. Notice this verb doesn't change. When it's he ate. When it's they ate. So in this construction, whether it's a singular subject he or a plural subject they, this didn't change. Okay, so this one doesn't really apply. And then over here, I had made some changes, and I see this changes didn't save. Let's see if I can just show you quickly. I'm going to unlock this. This should be for has. If for this to be present tense, it would be has eaten, and you could easily say he has eaten, and then you would say they have eaten. And I was showing you this before when we were working on the DLP, that in this past participle form here, has the power to make this present tense. All right, I'm going to quickly do the same thing here. I had made these changes before and then I didn't save them. Okay, so you could say he has slept, and you could say they have slept. And then down here you can say he has worked or they have worked. Okay, so when it's a present tense construction, this is when these ideas apply. All right, I'm going to turn the page. So here's the first rule when some people can make mistakes. You guys don't make mistakes like this, but people sometimes do, so we have to bring it up. Sometimes when you have a sentence, that subject and verb team get separated, and you know this. We've been working together now for a while, and you've seen this happen, okay? I made the mistake of not saving some important stuff. All right, so driving slowly is a participial phrase, and you can see where it is separating my subject and my verb. Okay, my subject is student. singular. The first verb in the construction is going to be singular, right? When you have the two verbs sitting together, gets or get, this first one is singular. Okay, so that's how they match up, even though this interrupted them. Here we have a prepositional phrase that's doing the interrupting. I had highlighted these before, and I don't have time. Okay, so now we have, though, a subject here. We still have to agree with the verb. Okay, so in this case, we have a plural subject that needs to agree with the plural verb. When you look at these two, the second one is always your plural one. So there it is. And then here you have the subject verb being interrupted with a adjective clause, right? Who have good grades is separating this plural subject with what needs to be a plural verb over here. Okay, so it's not a big deal. You guys are pretty good at this kind of thing, but what some people will do and make a mistake is they'll see this noun here and they'll think, oh, these two things are working together, when in fact it's this subject that's working with this verb. So it's just something to keep in mind. Rule number 2, when you have two subjects joined together with the word and, okay, like in this sentence, the book and the movie, all right? So here, you know, these are going to be a compound subject. So here you've got book, right? That's one subject. And you put it together with movie, and you end up with two things. You don't have one thing, you have two things. So you end up with a plural subject, so you're going to grab a plural verb. But here, winner and heavyweight champion. There's another correction I had made and lost. You're talking about the same person. So I'm saying the winner, and then I'm saying and heavyweight champion of the world. Well, all of these two things, even though I have two things, I'm still talking about one person, is Muhammad Ali. Okay, so if that's the case, then we need the singular verb is, not are, even though we have two subjects in this sentence. Be like if you said, my English teacher and Mrs. Chenault is. Okay? All right. Now, sometimes you have subjects joined with either or nor. When you do that, the verb agrees with the subject that's closest to it. So the painter or the carpenter. The verb that's closest to the subject here is the subject that's closest to the verb is carpenter. Carpenter is singular. Okay, so I'm going to put an S here, and I'm going to have to get a singular verb. It's going to be the first verb in the pair. Here, I've got cabinets and bookcases. So where's the noun or the subject close to the verb? It's bookcases. Well, bookcases is plural. So I'll go with bookcases, and I'll go with cost. And if you're working with a sentence where you have music, which is a singular subject, joined with words, which is plural, always stick to the one that's closest to the verb. So words is plural, so we're going to go with sound. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. So when you have two subjects that are joined with or nor, you want to take the subject that's closest to the verb, and that's the one you're going to agree with. Now, in this third rule, we have these things called indefinite pronouns, okay, meaning they're indefinite. It's unclear who they're referring to. So here is a whole list of indefinite pronouns that are always singular. So the word each is on this list. It's always singular. Even though you've got this prep phrase that says of the appliances, you still want to stick with singular because it's each, and each is always going to be a singular subject. The same is true with either. The same is true with neither. See, because they're on this list. This list is indefinite pronouns, but these are always plural, both, few, many, and several. So no matter what the prepositional phrase is, you're still going to stick to plural because both is always plural. So I'll put a plural S on top of that, and my verb is always going to match it. So I'm going to take this second verb in this series, if it'll let me. Okay, so many is in this list here, so it's always plural. You always grab the plural verb. Several is always plural. You grab the plural verb. Now, I want to make that quick because I think you get that. Here, however, are 5 indefinite pronouns that can go either way depending on what it's referring to. So most is on this list. It can go either way. I don't know if it's plural or singular until I look at it. Most of my homework is singular. So then I'm going to have to stick with singular on this. Okay, now I have the same word most, but this time we're talking of my assignments. Now, most is no longer singular. Most is plural because assignments is plural. Oops, I'm sorry. That has to go with the verb. Plural verb is always that second verb in there. All right, that's rule number 3. So with rule number 3, these are always singular. Okay, whenever you see anyone, no one, someone, anybody, everybody, nobody, somebody, each, whatever, whatever, it's always singular. Whenever you see both, few, many, several, always plural. But whenever you see all, any, most, none, some, you got to look to see what it's referring to. And last but not least, rule number 4, and this is basically stuff that's kind of miscellaneous. When sometimes we have, sentences or questions where, the subject and verb get inverted. So instead of seeing the subjects first and then the verbs, you see the verbs and then the subjects. And the rule is the exact same thing. So here's and as my joiner, attorney and prosecutor. I'm talking about 2 different people. So that means I have a plural subject happening here. And I'm going to need to choose the plural verb. Here's another one. There is a reason. Well, here's my subject reason. So it's singular. And therefore, I'm going to pick my singular verb. So even though the verb came before the subject, it still gets agreed. It still agrees. And, same thing here. Sometimes we get confused when we see the word there. We think there is the subject. Well, there is not the subject. Differences is the subject. So differences are. All right, and this tape only gives me 15 minutes, so I am going to rush through the ending. And it's kind of another rule number 4 where things don't really, like where do you fit this? Well, it's one of these situations where sometimes our subject has an S on the end, like news. Just because my subject has an S on the end doesn't mean it's plural. In this case, no news. It's a singular subject, and we'll say no news is good news. We're going to pick the singular verb. Here I've got the word mathematics. It has an S on the end, but it's still only one thing. Mathematics is her greatest strength. So even though there's an S on the end, it's still going to be singular, and I'm still going to pick is. And then last but not least, United States. That's another good example. It has an S on the end. And yeah, there are 50 of, states in the United States, but United States in and of itself is one idea, is one thing, okay, one place. So it's going to take a singular verb with it. All right, so that's it. Subject-verb agreement. There you have it. And you guys are already good at it. So you turn the page and you have some opportunity to practice. So in this case, you see Michael and you see it separated with this, what is this? Kind of a prepositional phrase, with his 4 brothers, together with his 4 brothers. So, but it's still Michael you want to agree with. Michael is singular, so Michael owns the restaurant. 1, if you remember, 1 is on that list of indefinite pronouns that are always singular. Check that list. I hope you took some notes. It's going to be was. All right, so you've got this list here. I'm going to scroll down so you can see all 10. If I were you, I'd give it a shot. See if you can get them right.